Okay, so this explainer is all about Chapter 6, Assessment and Appraisal, and it's from a pretty foundational textbook on speech sound disorders. Think of this as a detective story. We're going to put on our hats and really dig in to crack the case of unclear speech. Let's jump right in. You know the feeling, right? It's so frustrating. Your kid is trying to tell you something, they've got a million ideas buzzing in their head, but you just can't understand them. It's like they're speaking a totally different language. So what the hell actually happens when you finally bring in a pro? Well, that's what we're talking about. We're going to frame this whole thing like a detective story, following the clues that a speech-language pathologist, an SLP, uses to solve the mystery.
Every single investigation kicks off with a case file. And these aren't just made-up scenarios. These are the real problems that land a kid in the clinic. So the SLP's first job? It's just to listen and understand that initial report.
Now check this out, because this is where it gets really interesting. We've got two kids here, both 4 years old, but their case files are completely different. You've got Lillian, who's so hard to understand it's messing with her life at preschool, and she's mainly just using one word at a time. Then you have Colin. He's speaking in full sentences, but his parents say his words sound slurred, and he's drooling a bit. See? Two totally unique mysteries. This proves right off the bat that unclear speech isn't just one thing. Our detective needs a different game plan for every single case.
Okay, hold on. Before we get any deeper, we got to get two terms straight because they're super important. Appraisal versus diagnosis. Just think of it like this. Appraisal is all the legwork. It's the clue gathering, the data collection. It's the detective hitting the streets, knocking on doors, collecting evidence. Diagnosis, that's what happens back at the station. That's when you take all that evidence, pin it to the corkboard, and figure out what's going on. It's the final conclusion. And you absolutely cannot have a diagnosis without the appraisal first.
Any good detective will tell you, you always start by ruling out the obvious. Before you start spinning these wild theories, you check the basics. Is the equipment working? In the speech world, that means checking the actual physical tools the kid is using to make sounds.
And here are the first two stops on any good investigation. First up, the hearing screen. I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? If you can't hear sounds the right way, how are you ever going to say them the right way? And step two, the speech mechanism exam. This is where the SLP gets up close and personal, literally checking out the whole system, the mouth, tongue, teeth, to see if the machinery is even capable of doing what it's supposed to do.
And when I say a deep dive, I am not kidding. This is way more than a simple, say ah. Just look at this list. The SLP is checking how the teeth line up, that's called occlusion. They're looking at the tongue's size, its color, looking for any weirdness. They're checking out the roof of the mouth, both the hard part and the soft part. They're even watching how the kid breathes. It's an unbelievably thorough physical exam.
All right, so once the physical scene is checked out and secure, it's time for a more formal procedure. This is where standardized tests come in, or as I like to call it, the detective's lineup. The SLP shows the kid a bunch of pictures and just asks, "What's this?" It's a structured way to see how this one kid's speech compares to, like, a giant database of other kids their age.
Now look, these tests are definitely useful, but you have to know their limits. The pros? They're fast, you get a solid score you can use for comparison, and schools often need one. But the cons? Well, they only test sounds in single words. That's not how we talk. They don't check every sound in every possible position. Honestly, they're really just scratching the surface of what's going on.
Exactly. I mean, come on. Naming pictures, sun, house, ball, it's so clinical. It's not a real conversation. It doesn't capture any of the natural flow or the messiness of how people really communicate. So if the lineup only gives you a few clues, how do you get the full story?
You go undercover. That's what you do. The next step is to get what's called a spontaneous speech sample. This is the SLP just hanging out, playing with the kid on the floor with some toys, and getting them to talk naturally. This is the hidden camera footage that shows you what's really happening when the kid isn't performing for a test.
And you can't just wing it. You need the right tools to get good footage. The SLP figures out how long the sample needs to be and brings in specific toys or books to try and get the kid to say certain sounds. And this is huge. They always record it. Here's a real pro move. It's called glossing. If the kid says something you can't understand, the SLP quietly says the correct word into the recorder. That way, later on, they know exactly what the kid was trying to say. It's like adding subtitles to your evidence reel. Genius.
Okay, the legwork is done. All the evidence is in the back. You've got the physical exam, the formal lineup, the undercover surveillance. It's time to head back to the office, spread everything out, and finally crack this thing wide open.
And this is it. This is the detective's corkboard. This model from the World Health Organization shows you exactly how an SLP puts all the pieces together.
They look at body functions and structures. That's the physical stuff we talked about. They look at activities and participation, like how is this speech problem actually messing with the kid's life, with making friends. They even consider all the environmental and personal stuff. All of these clues point to the health condition, which is the diagnosis. It's the whole picture, not just a list of wrong sounds.
So how does a detective actually analyze the clues? This is where it gets good. They look for a pattern, right? A signature, an MO. Check this out. A kid says "tuh" when they're trying to say "saw." An SLP doesn't just go, "Nope, wrong. No way." They see the pattern. They see the kid is taking that long, hissy "s" sound and swapping it for a short, hard "t" sound. It's a classic move called stopping. And finding those patterns, man, that is everything. That's how you really start to understand the root of the problem.
And I really want you to get this because it's the most important part of this whole thing. After all this detective work, the screening, the tests, the analysis, the final diagnosis isn't about slapping a label on a kid. It's about creating a roadmap, a detailed plan that tells everyone, the SLP, the parents, the teachers, exactly what's wrong and, more importantly, where to start to make it right.
So, the case is cracked, the detective knows the patterns, the roadmap is all laid out. The mystery of what is going on has been solved. But that just opens up the next big question, doesn't it? What's the plan of attack? How do you actually go in there and fix those patterns? Well, that's a whole other investigation.